and I'm representing Pharma Literati here. So we have started with this online GPAT classes for the GPAT 2021, and for that, all of us have gathered for the demo session. We have back-to-back three demo sessions in this particular week, wherein three of our speakers would be actually providing you demos of one particular topic or one particular subject per se. So in the series, this is the first one that we have today, and we have with us one of our faculties who is actually who would be teaching the subjects which are related to pharmaceutics, like pharmaceutics, biopharmaceutics, pharmacokinetics and all. And she would be providing us with her expertise and the session, demo session basically today for all of you. I have actually what I've done is I've muted everyone for the entire session. If you have any questions at any point of time, you can actually put it under chat option. We'll be taking all the questions at the end of the session one by one, which would be relevant for everyone as such. So here is Sita, who would be actually delivering her session. So thank you so much, Sita, for joining us, and over to you. No, you are not audible.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible now.
Yeah. Hi, students. What a wonderful introduction by Vijay Shipuje sir. So welcome everybody for the demo lecture of subjects relating to pharmaceutics, biopharmaceutics, drug delivery, pharmacokinetics, dynamics. So today we are here to talk and understand more something about in the subject of biopharmaceutics, which is a very important subject. So I would like to introduce the subject saying that entire drug delivery, entire drug discovery, entire research and development revolves around this particular subject of biopharmaceutics. And we are going to talk today about bioavailability today. So I would like to start now. What I've done today is I have made my presentation, and I have also cross-checked with a couple of GPAT objective questions to make sure that whatever today we are learning in this presentation is applicable to you to answer those questions. So I'm sure this presentation is going to be very informative. I just want one commitment from all of y'all, that because this subject is a little more into understanding, going more into the depth of understanding of the concepts, I would like you all to always, give your attention and be with me. So it's going to be very easy for y'all. And in between, I'm also going to, explain the same concepts in Hindi, maybe because we have a couple of, students from people who are not very fluent in English. So I'm going to keep that in mind, and we are going to start today. So I'm going to share my screen now. Is it visible, Dipali? Is it visible, the share screening?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So hello, let's start with today. What is the important concept of bioavailability and bioequivalence in the field of biopharmaceutics? So now this is a very important concept in all your GPAT questions that come. So definitely a couple of questions are going to come from this particular topic and subject because it is very important. Now, what we know is as bioavailability. What is bioavailability? Bioavailability means the rate and extent of drug absorption from the drug product, that is, it could be your tablets or capsules, into the systemic circulation, that is, into the blood from your GIT to elicit a pharmacological response. That means In very simpler terms, if I'm eating a tablet or a capsule which contains a particular drug of say 200 mg, so what is bioavailability is, if I'm eating a tablet of 200 mg, what is the final amount of drug is going to be seen in my blood? Obviously, if from a tablet or capsule, entire 200 mg is not going to come to my systemic circulation, that is blood. So what is this difference? Is known as bioavailability. So we briefly define this as rate and extent of drug absorption from the drug product into the systemic circulation to elicit a pharmacological response. Now I'm going to explain this in a very simple term. Suppose हम tablet या capsule खाते हैं, so that capsule or tablet has say 100 or 200 mg of the drug. Now what happens after we eat the tablet? The tablet has to disintegrate. After disintegration, it has to dissolve in the biological fluids, that is stomach में जितने भी contents है. So the tablet will first disintegrate into powders. This powder has to dissolve and then it has to get absorbed through the GI wall. After that, it will undergo something called as first pass metabolism, and the remaining drug is only going to come to the systemic circulation. So what exactly bioavailability is? The amount of drug that reaches this systemic circulation is called bioavailability. That is, यहाँ पे जो हम tablet खाते हैं, उसका कितना % of drug is going to come to this systemic circulation is what we understand by bioavailability. And the calculation of bioavailable fraction can be calculated by the bioavailable dose divided by administered dose. Now we are going to see examples of all of this. And bioavailability is always represented as percentage. So if you read a lot of articles, you will get to know that the bioavailability of paracetamol suspension was found to be 60%. So bioavailability is always given in terms of percentage. So bioavailability can be calculated by multiplying bioavailable fraction into 100. Now we come to routes of administration. Now we all know that we have different routes of administration. So the different routes of administration can be oral, can be parenteral, that is intravenous, intramuscular, subcutaneous. It could be rectal delivery, vaginal delivery, intranasal delivery, suppositories. So these are the different routes of administration. And bioavailability widely varies along with this route of administration, because every route of administration has a particular advantage and disadvantage. So parenteral is supposed to give the highest amount of bioavailability, followed by oral route, rectal route and topical route. Now ये हम सबको पता है कि जब भी हम हॉस्पिटल में एडमिट होते हैं, the first thing that they give us is by IV. Why they give by IV is because that IV में जो drug दिया है, it directly enters the blood. So what is systemic circulation is blood. तो अगर वो IV दिया हुआ direct blood में जा रहा है, means वो बीच वाला जो भी processes है, like drug disintegration, drug dissolution, absorption is all barred. So in parenteral, the drug delivery directly goes to the systemic circulation, and that is why it is known as 100% bioavailability. Whereas oral route, it will never give you 100% bioavailability, and the bioavailability of oral route is always less than 100%. Now this is something I want to show you all. So here, so now you consider this as an IV route. If your entry of intravenous administration of API directly into the bloodstream. So from this bloodstream, it circulates to the entire body. Now this is called as bioavailability. So if I'm giving here 10 mg of drug, that entire 10 mg of drug is going into my blood circulation. And that is why I say that the bioavailability is 100%. Whereas if I'm giving something by mouth, that is the oral tablet or capsule, it has to undergo the process of disintegration, dissolution, and then it has to get absorbed from the stomach walls into the blood. So ये सारे processes में there can be drug instability in the stomach, because of which there is drug loss. There can be drug poor solubility, because of which it doesn't dissolve. There can be poor permeation across the GI wall, so because of which there is poor absorption. So always if I give 10 mg here, not necessarily 10 mg will come into the blood. So whatever amount that comes into the blood is what we are calculating by bioavailability. And obviously, to reduce the wastage of drug, if a person has 10 mg, it is always encouraged or it is always desirable that entire 10 mg or as much as possible is available in the blood. So that is why we say that the IV always has the plasma kinetic time curve always starts with 100. So the GPAT questions here could be which of the following route does not show 100% bioavailability, or the GPAT question could be which of the following route shows maximum bioavailability. So that is why biopharmaceutics, you have to be more and you have to more give attention to the concepts, because these are conceptual understanding. Then we come to, again, when I define bioavailability, is defined as a fraction or percentage of the administered dose of unchanged medicine that reaches the blood, that reaches the systemic circulation. Now, one very fine example I will give you. This also could be a kind of a GPAT question, because when I've referred into the books, these are the questions that I've gathered from previous years. So suppose I am giving an 100 mg drug as a tablet. So what happens is 70 mg gets absorbed through the GI wall. Now, after getting absorbed, say 20 mg of the drug is metabolized in the liver, which is called as first pass metabolism. So what is that amount that is available in the systemic circulation? So 100 mg में से 70 mg absorb हुआ है. That means there is loss of 30 mg. Abhi from this 70 mg, again 20 mg is metabolized in the liver. After metabolism, it is no more the active component. It gets metabolized into one of its metabolites. So 70 में से वापस 20 mg of drug metabolize हो गया. So actual unchanged drug that is available is 50% in the systemic circulation. So what is the bioavailability? How will you calculate the bioavailability? So bioavailable fraction is calculated by bioavailable dose divided by administered dose. That is, what is the bioavailable dose is 50 mg, and what is the administered dose initially is 100 mg. So your bioavailability fraction is calculated to be 0.5 or 50% bioavailability of your drug. This is how we calculate bioavailability. I hope it is very simple till now. Dipali, am I audible and are my slides clear?
Yes, Sita.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. So now, why are we learning this bioavailability study? What is the importance of bioavailability? So suppose एक new chemical entity researched by the chemist, एक new chemical entity market में आना है उसको. So it shows potential promises in treating a particular disease. तो आप कैसे उसको dosage form बनाओगे? कौन से dosage form से उसको maximum bioavailability मिलेगा? So that is important. तो suppose same drug का same dose का मैंने tablet बनाया और मैंने अगर oral solution बनाया और oral suspension बनाया, तो तीनों में सेम ड्रग अमाउंट है, बट फिर भी तीनों का बायोअवेलेबिलिटी डिफर करेगा. सो दिस इज व्हाई आई नीड टू नो व्हाट इज दैट सुटेबल डोसेज फॉर्म which will give the maximum bioavailability. Next is there are many influence of excipients. So what are excipients? अगर हम सपोज सस्पेंशन बना रहे हैं, तो सस्पेंशन में ड्रग के अलावा बहुत सारी अलग इंग्रेडिएंट्स जाते हैं, लाइक विच कुड बी विस्कोसिटी मॉडिफाइंग एजेंट, which could be जो particle size सस्पेंशन को स्टिक करके बड़ा ना हो, वो ingredient होगा. But ये सारे excipients can also hamper or can also increase the bioavailability. So influence of excipients, development of new formulations of existing drugs. अभी मार्केट में पैरासिटामोल टैबलेट है, बट पैरासिटामोल टैबलेट का सिर्फ 30% ही सपोज बायोअवेलेबिलिटी है. तो 500 mg जो हम पैरासिटामोल खा रहे हैं, उसका 30% ही ब्लड में पहुंच रहा है और 30% ही इफेक्ट बता रहा है. सो इफ सपोज यू कैन इंप्रूव द फॉर्मुलेशन which will give you 60% bioavailability. तो उसका क्या मतलब हुआ कि 60% मींस डबल द बायोअवेलेबिलिटी दे रहा है, डबल द इफेक्ट देगा. तो मे बी पैरासिटामोल टैबलेट 250 mg का ही रिसर्च साइंटिस्ट कैन मेक. सो डेवलपमेंट ऑफ न्यू फॉर्मुलेशंस ऑफ एग्जिस्टिंग ड्रग्स एंड क्वालिटी कंट्रोल मींस एवरी बैच टू बैच, अगर हर बैच का बायोअवेलेबिलिटी अलग रहेगा, so there will be a problem to the patient. So these are the importance of bioavailability studies. Now I would like to tell you that the importance of bioavailability studies, ऐसे questions जिनके बहुत सारे parts है, mostly these questions in GPAT are asked as these options will be given. ऑल ऑफ द अबव और नन ऑफ द अबव। तो अगर ऑल ऑफ द अबव आपको आंसर टिक करना है तो आपको ऑल ऑफ द ये सारे जो पॉइंट्स है सबका मीनिंग समझना चाहिए, एंड दैट इज व्हाई आई एम डिस्कसिंग दिस इन डिटेल। नाउ बायोअवेलेबिलिटी इज ऑफ टू टाइप्स, one is absolute bioavailability and second is relative bioavailability. Now absolute bioavailability में क्या होता है कि same drug, now this is for comparison, कि अगर एक पैरासिटामोल टैबलेट है और मैंने एक नया पैरासिटामोल का फॉर्मुलेशन बनाया है, so how will I determine its bioavailability? I will always compare it with a test and a standard product. तो absolute bioavailability में क्या होता है कि the testing parameter is always by IV. तो IV as I have already said is 100%. तो हमको पता है कि कुछ भी सॉल्यूशन IV दिया तो उसका 100% बायोअवेलेबिलिटी है। तो एब्सोल्यूट बायोअवेलेबिलिटी में व्हाट आई विल डू इज द पैरासिटामोल टैबलेट दैट आई हैव मेड, आई विल कंपेयर इट विद द IV ऑफ पैरासिटामोल। सो दिस इज एब्सोल्यूट बायोअवेलेबिलिटी, एंड एब्सोल्यूट बायोअवेलेबिलिटी का सिंबल इज F. So always GPAT में such tricky questions come, like they will give you the symbol कि what is F, मतलब F is represented as this. इतना simple question नहीं आएगा. It is called absolute bioavailability, but it will say calculate F. It will not say calculate absolute bioavailability. So you should know what is F. Then comes the unit is percentage. Bioavailability का percentage, unit is always percentage. And the second type of bioavailability is relative bioavailability. तो रिलेटिव बायोअवेलेबिलिटी में क्या होता है कि वन टेस्ट एंड वन स्टैंडर्ड, तो कंपैरिजन होता है इन दोनों में। तो स्टैंडर्ड में कुछ भी, अभी ओरल टैबलेट एंड ओरल कैप्सूल भी हो सकता है, ओरल सस्पेंशन एंड ओरल टैबलेट, ओरल सस्पेंशन एंड ओरल कैप्सूल, या ओरल सस्पेंशन एंड टॉपिकल जेल, कोई भी दो चीजें कंपेयर कर सकते हैं। So this is called as relative bioavailability. Relative the term itself says relative, मतलब इसके रिलेशन में ये क्या है। So it is test versus standard, and relative bioavailability का symbol is FR because R for relative. And ये क्या होता है, formulation के हिसाब से relative bioavailability change होता है। तो इसके लिए it is to characterize the absorption of drug from its formulation, and इसका भी unit percentage होता है। Now this is the formula to calculate absolute and relative bioavailability. तो इसमें क्या होता है, AUC क्या होता है, we will see in the next section. And a formula also we will see again in the next section. Now, bioavailability can be determined by two ways. One is single dose and one is multiple dose. तो single dose में क्या होता है, the patient और the मतलब clinical trials में the animals और preclinical trials में animals and clinical trials में patients, तो उनको सिर्फ सिंगल डोज दिया जाता है. ओनली वन सिंगल डोज इज एडमिनिस्टर्ड ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर फॉर्मुलेशन. सो ऑब्वियसली इट इज एडवांटेजेस बिकॉज दैट पेशेंट और दैट एनिमल विल हैव लेस एक्सपोजर ऑफ ड्रग्स. बट इसका डिसएडवांटेज क्या है कि स्टेडी स्टेट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स इज डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड. नाउ व्हाट इज स्टेडी स्टेट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स? अभी सपोज सम पेशेंट इज हैविंग अ एंटी हाइपरटेंसिव ड्रग, तो वो एंटी हाइपरटेंसिव ड्रग दैट पेशेंट ईट्स डेली. तो डेली खाने में क्या होता है कि ऑब्वियसली एवरी 24 आवर्स ही इज ईटिंग, so there will be some amount of residual drug from the previous tablet. अभी मैंने आज टैबलेट खाया, not necessarily by 24 hours entire 100% is eliminated, so there is some amount in my blood. ऊपर से if I take today का dose, so obviously it is going to club together, and after 4 to 5 drugs, 4 to 5 dosages, I'm going to achieve a steady state of the plasma concentration of the drug. And in single dose ये नहीं होगा because एक ही single dose में अपन टेस्ट कर रहे हैं, and it is difficult to predict inter-subject variability. So inter-subject variability means per subject variability will be very high in single dose. And multiple dose में the drug should be administered for 5 to 6 elimination half-life before collecting blood sample. So elimination half-life is the half-life of the drug. So if some drugs have 6 hours elimination half-life, some drugs will have 24 hours elimination half-life. So this states that multiple dose bioavailability studies में you should ensure that before you collect blood sample, you try to 5 to 6 elimination half-life के doses देखे के बाद ही blood sample should be collected. Now it reflects the manner in which drug should be used, and it is easy to predict peak and valley characteristics because it is multiple dose. Now multiple dose में एक और advantage क्या है? the drug concentration that is available in the blood will be higher, because multiple doses ke baad we are collecting the blood samples. So obviously analytical technique या quantification technique is easier, and because it is on a long term basis, the inter-subject variability may be less, and it is better for evaluation of controlled release formulations. Now when we are talking about clinical trials, we have to talk about human volunteers. So the major dilemma is वो जो दवाई जो which shows promising results, which have to be shown clinical trials में, should it be tested on human volunteers, normal human volunteers, or should it be tested on patients? So patients के लिए it is obviously benefit. If suppose I am conducting my antihypertensive drug clinical trial on hypertensive patients, so obviously they will be benefiting from my study. Secondly, because they have blood pressure, my therapeutic efficacy or the results that I obtained will be much better. And third is drug absorption pattern in the diseased condition can be evaluated. But and also it is ethically right. Like it is also, some people talk about ethical dilemma. Like ethically, अगर वो जो दवाई हम develop कर रहे हैं वो healthy patients को दे, so some people consider us as ethically not right. Now, what are the disadvantages of using human volunteers? So human volunteers क्या होते हैं कि वो diseased होते हैं already. So if we are considering such diseased population, they might have other comorbidities. Like अभी किसी को blood pressure है and if he is 50 plus, there are chances that उसको diabetes भी हो सकता है. And because of that, my clinical results will give me false results. Now, suppose I am giving a drug to them, my test that I have to evaluate antihypertensive drug, but unka already they have some other disease condition in their GI tract, like stomach. Uske wajah se mera absorption of the drug will reduce or will change. So it will give me false results. Hence, it is advisable that you take a healthy human volunteer. Now, this healthy human volunteer should be young, 20 to 40 years. They should be healthy male adults, and the body weight has to be in a constant range. Agar wo drug is, suppose it is used for females, like example contraception, then female candidates are used for the study. The number of subjects hugely depend on the drug type. Like inter-subject variability should be minimum. The consent from the patients is very important. Like the patients have to be explained the side effects, the advantages, the disadvantages, what side effects it can cause. Entirely it should be explained and then consent should be taken. The volunteer should be medically examined कि और कोई condition नहीं है. They should not have had any medications for 1 week. And fasting, अभी वो tablet लेने के पहले they should fast overnight, and after taking the tablet 4 hours they should fast. And there is something called as washout period. So washout period means if suppose I am a volunteer of a clinical trial. Now I take part in this particular study. तो ये drug मेरे body से completely eliminate होने के पहले I cannot or I will not be able to take part in another study. तो जब तक ये drug मेरे body से completely eliminate नहीं होता, मैं दूसरे किसी study और दूसरे किसी drug में part नहीं ले सकती. So this is called as washout period. Washout period is 10 biological half-lives of the drug. तो अभी मेरे को suppose paracetamol दिया है, तो paracetamol का half-life suppose is 6 hours. So I have to wait for 60 hours before I take part in the next study. So these are the prerequisites of a human volunteer in a clinical trial. Now हम ये bioavailability measurement क्यों कर रहे हैं? What is the reason? So the reason is बायोअवेलेबिलिटी ड्रग का जितना ज्यादा रहे, जितना एज क्लोज टू 100% रहे, उतना हम कम डोज दे सकते हैं ड्रग में. तो अगर 500 mg का अगर हमको 100% बायोअवेलेबिलिटी मिल रहा है, तो हमको 200 mg लेने की जरूरत है, बिकॉज 200 mg में थेरापेटिक एफिकेसी आता है. सो दैट इज व्हाई वी हैव टू एंश्योर दैट द बायोअवेलेबिलिटी इज मैक्सिमम. नाउ देयर आर 2 मेथड्स टू मेजर बायोअवेलेबिलिटी. One is the pharmacokinetic method, and the second is I'm sorry, there was some so one is pharmacokinetic method and the second is pharmacodynamic method. Now listen to me very importantly and very carefully, because now the tricky part of the topic starts, and it's very interesting. Believe me, you will, if you keep attention with me, you can understand more. So and whatever doubts you have, please write it on a piece of paper, or you can drop it on the chat box so that we can discuss this later. So now we come to pharmacokinetic methods. Now what is kinetic? Kinetic itself means numerical values. So pharmacokinetic means quantitative estimation of drug in the blood plasma. तो हम ये पता कैसे करेंगे कि कितना ड्रग अवेलेबल है ब्लड में? तो as soon as somebody takes the drug, उसका जैसे ही उसने ड्रग लिया, उसका 5 मिनट्स, 10 मिनट्स, 15 मिनट्स, 1 आवर, 2 आवर, 4 आवर, 8 आवर, 12 आवर, 24 आवर्स, ऐसा वो पेशेंट का ब्लड सैंपल लिया जाएगा, एंड एट एवरी टाइम पॉइंट वो ब्लड में कितना ड्रग है वो एस्टिमेट करेंगे. So it reflects the therapeutic effectiveness of the drug. Now pharmacokinetic method is called as an indirect method. Now we will come to why indirect and direct in the next presentation. And these are basically two major methods. One is plasma level time studies and urinary excretion studies. And the second type is pharmacodynamic method. So dynamic means changes. It keeps changing. तो pharmacodynamic method में क्या करते हैं? Behavior evaluate करते हैं. Now if suppose a patient is being given a drug for fever, तो अगर वो पैरासिटामोल 500 mg देके ब्लड में कितना at 2 hours, how much paracetamol is found in the blood? If that is the question, then definitely they are talking about pharmacokinetic method, because they are talking about numericals, they are talking about values. But if I am talking about मैंने पैरासिटामोल दवाई ली and मेरा 2 घंटे में या 15 मिनट में फीवर चला गया, that is qualitative evaluation. So that is pharmacodynamic method. So that reflects the effect of pathophysiological process, and this is called as direct method. So obviously anything जो directly effect दिखे, so the pharmacodynamic effect दिखे, that is called direct method. Suppose if a cardiac patient is going and getting admitted, उसका ECG निकाला जाता है, तो उसका ECG is abnormal. But as soon as they give them a drug for angina, or as soon as they give them a drug, antihypertensive drug, ECG में तुरंत changes दिखते हैं, and the ECG comes back to normal. So this is a direct method. This is a pharmacodynamic method. And इसके भी two methods है, which we are going to discuss. Now the first is plasma level time studies. So plasma is a component of the blood. So इसमें क्या होता है, as I discussed, when we have the tablet, we at sequential intervals हम blood withdraw करते हैं. Blood withdraw करने के बाद उसमें कितना drug quantity available है. That is the ultimate aim of bioavailability. You remember the first slide? You have to find out the amount of drug available in the systemic circulation. Systemic circulation is blood. So we are trying to find out how much drug has gone into the systemic circulation. तो इसमें क्या होता है कि हम क्या करते हैं, हर टाइम पॉइंट पे ब्लड निकालते हैं एंड हर टाइम पॉइंट पे कॉन्सेंट्रेशन वर्सेस टाइम प्लॉट करते हैं. सो इट इज द मोस्ट रिलायबल एंड मेथड ऑफ चॉइस. नाउ सिंगल डोज में क्या होता है, नाउ दिस इज द बेसिक फ्लो चार्ट ऑफ हाउ बायोअवेलेबिलिटी इज मेजर्ड. तो पहले द पेशेंट्स और द ह्यूमन वॉलंटियर्स आर एडमिनिस्टर्ड डोसेस, then they are collected blood samples at different time points, then the blood concentration is analyzed for the drug, and plasma concentration versus time profile is plotted. Now IV के लिए हमने already क्या बात की कि it is already in the blood, it is right from time 0, it is already in the blood. So always the first time point has to be 5 minutes to understand कि वो कितना 100% available है कि नहीं. So right from 5 minutes, we are supposed to take time points. Whereas for oral route, minimum 3 points have to be in the absorption phase. I will also come to absorption phase. Now this is how my plasma concentration time profile will look. Now if you are in the final year BPharm, you already know what this is, what I am talking about. So this is the curve of the drug concentration versus time profile. तो इन शॉर्ट 0 आवर्स में ओरली टैबलेट लिया है, इसके लिए देयर इज नो इतना इमीडिएट ड्रग जीआईटी में जाके डिस्पर्स होके एब्जॉर्ब होना. एट टाइम 0 द कंसंट्रेशन इज 0, whereas as the time proceeds there is an absorption phase. तो क्या होता है कि ड्रग द डोसेज फॉर्म हैज गॉन टू द जीआईटी, इट हैज डिसइंटीग्रेटेड एंड एब्जॉर्प्शन हो रहा है. So this is the absorption phase because absorption consistently GIT से हो रहा है. Now then it reaches a particular concentration. It reaches a particular concentration where there is the maximum concentration. So this maximum concentration, which is 1000 nanograms here, is the Cmax. So this is called as the maximum plasma concentration, which is called as Cmax, which is 1000 nanogram per ml. एंड ये कौन से टाइम पॉइंट पे आता है, ये Cmax कब अचीव होता है? दिस इज कॉल्ड एज Tmax. सो इफ दिस इज कॉल्ड एज Tmax, Tmax इज टाइम मैक्सिमम. तो 2 hours में you achieve this maximum concentration, plasma concentration. And what is AUC? AUC is this entire area. AUC is this entire area, that is drug exposure कितना हुआ है. This entire area at which drug has been exposed is called as AUC. And AUC has to be calculated. अभी Cmax directly दिख रहा है, Tmax directly दिख रहा है, AUC has to be calculated. So these are the 3 important parameters in a plasma level time study. So if we know Cmax, if we know AUC, if we know Tmax, we will be able to calculate the bioavailability. And similarly in multi-dose क्या होता है कि there are multiple doses that is given. Remember we spoke about anti-hypertensive drug. तो anti-hypertensive drug में ये multiple doses दिया जाता है. And this is the dose interval. So you can consider 24 hours. Suppose 24 hours में first dose, second dose, third dose, fourth dose, fifth dose. Now administration of at least 5 biological half-lives is required. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when do they sample? Is they sample at the end of the 5th biological half-life and throughout the next dose. So this is also similar. Here also you get a Cmax, you get a Tmax, that is कौन से dosing interval पे, and this is the AUC. So this is the bioavailability calculation. Here what is it is AUC of test upon AUC of standard into dose of standard into dose of test into the dosing interval. So this is how bioavailability is calculated in multiple dose steady state plasma level time studies. Now we come to urinary excretion. Abhi every drug cannot be quantitated in the blood because there might be challenges of the drug. Drug unstable हो सकता है या फिर analytical method जो कि हम HPLC, UV जो चीजें बात करती है analytical technology. This analytical technology might not be there available to quantify the drug. So what is the next best method? अगर suppose हमने drug लिया, वो drug blood में अगर हम quantitate नहीं कर पाए, so what is the next best method? So then अभी we know that drug is always eliminated from the body through urinary phase, through kidneys. So the second best way is to analyze the drug concentration in the urine. So some classic examples are thiazide diuretics, sulfonamides, nitrofurantoin. So ये सारी चीजें gets eliminated in the excretion in the unchanged form. So this is neither available to the drug for activity, and because it is not available for activity, it gets eliminated. So अगर हमने ये quantify किया, so then we can subtract it from the administered dose to find out what is the blood bioavailability. The bioavailability of that drug in the body. So इसमें क्या होता है कि dose is administered and urine samples are collected. वहां पे कैसे blood samples collect किए, यहाँ पे urine samples are collected and the urine is analyzed for drug content. And again, I'm sorry, this is urine concentration versus time profile is plotted. So यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि concentration of metabolites is not calculated in urine since the drug में undergo metabolism. तो अभी सपोज एक ड्रग को दिया जाता है, वो ड्रग मेटाबोलाइज होता है एंड देन इट एंटर्स द सिस्टमिक सर्कुलेशन. तो मेटाबोलाइट वाला ड्रग जो एलिमिनेट होता है उसको हम इसमें क्वांटिफाई नहीं करते. एंड वेल व्हाइल यूरिन कलेक्शन इट इज इंपॉर्टेंट दैट एवरी टाइम देयर इज टोटल एम्प्टीइंग ऑफ ब्लैडर, बिकॉज अगर थोड़ा भी यूरिन रिटेन हुआ देयर कुड बी एरर्स, लाइक देयर कुड बी डुप्लीकेशन ऑफ द ड्रग. Now this is the rate of excretion versus urine collection period. So here we have 3 important parameters. One is dxu by dt max. which is similar to Cmax in the plasma concentration time study. Then we have the time taken to achieve this. So time taken to achieve this is similar to Tmax that we have seen. And the next is cumulative amount of drug excreted, which is similar to AUC. This is the cumulative amount of the drug that is exposed. So this is similar to AUC. So plasma level time studies and urinary excretion rate studies are analogous to each other. So dxu by dt max will be analogous to Cmax. Similarly, Tu max will be analogous to Tmax, and xu will be analogous to AUC. So these are the three important parameters you need to remember for both the ways of estimating bioavailability. Now, I said we will come to this bioavailability calculation. So in this bioavailability, what we have to find out is AUC, see, now it is very important to understand here that AUC is very important. ये जो AUC है, that is the amount of drug that is exposed by the body, is very important. So hence we take AUC in the consideration. So what we do is we use AUC of oral route upon AUC of IV route into dose of IV route into dose of oral route. So if suppose both my IV dose and oral dose is same, say 200 mg, then this will cancel out. So I don't need to take consideration of dose the calculation. So my bioavailability will be AUC of oral upon AUC of IV route. अगर ये relative bioavailability है, then we see AUC of test upon AUC of standard. Then there are also some drugs जिसका bioavailability need not be calculated by plasma as well as urine. It can be calculated by other biological fluids like salivary. So theophylline is an example where salivary excretion can be noted. Now in entire biopharmaceutics, in GPAT exams, examples are very important. So you need to understand why theophylline is used as in salivary excretion, and this can be a classic example. Which of the bioavailability calculation can be done from saliva? And one of the options will be theophylline, and this will be your answer. Similarly, cephalosporin antibiotics can be, the bioavailability can be found out by CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, and bile. Now we come to the direct methods of measurement of bioavailability, that is pharmacodynamic methods. And in pharmacodynamic methods, we saw there are two methods. One is acute pharmacological response, and the second is therapeutic response. Now we spoke that when will we use a pharmacodynamic method? That is when quantification is difficult, quantification is inaccurate, or quantification is non-reproducible. Like example, we saw change in ECG, change in EEG, or dilation of pupil. Now there is disadvantage in pharmacological response. One is it is highly variable. So one patient can, if they take the same dose, same drug of paracetamol, same dose at the same time, one individual can have reduction in fever in 15 minutes, whereas other individual can show reduction in fever in only after half an hour. Similarly, if suppose we are taking maybe a random example of a drug for loose motion. So somebody in the family, if both of them have loose motion, somebody will have loose motion stopping in 5 minutes, and somebody will take 2 doses, or somebody will stop loose motion only after half an hour. So it is highly variable depending on the individual, and it is very difficult to obtain an accurate correlation of the administered drug and the response. And the observed response. Now another very important classic example here is for some molecules, drug molecules, the parent molecule is effective. But for some drug molecules, the metabolite is effective. Abhi, when we are quantifying it in pharmacokinetic method, exactly by analytical method, we can know, is that effect shown by the active molecule, active metabolite, or is that effect shown by the parent molecule? But when we are doing pharmacological response, you will never come to know. You are only eating the drug, and you don't know whether the drug is showing the effect or whether the metabolite is showing the effect. And the second method is therapeutic response, that is clinical response given by the patients that are suffering the disease. Like example, suppose somebody has, I will take just a common example of fever. So you give it, administer that particular dosage form to a patients who are suffering from fever to know the therapeutic response. For oral route of administration, dissolution is very important. So when we are talking about dissolution tests, it can be a primary indicator for in vivo bioavailability. Now, suppose in the research laboratory, somebody is formulating a drug, somebody is formulating a dosage form. तो किसी ने suppose oral suspension बनाया. अभी oral suspension हर batch का bioavailability है कि नहीं? Every batch cannot be tested on human beings, right? It will be so cost effective, it will be so costly, it will be practically impossible that her batch or her formulation to be tested in the patients in vivo. तो उसके comparison में क्या कर सकते हैं? You can develop in vitro dissolution studies, and you can correlate this in vitro dissolution study to the in vivo bioavailability. So this is in broad term called as IVIVC, that is in vitro in vivo correlation. In vitro means those studies that are done outside the body in the general environment, and in vivo means those studies that are done inside the body. So हम अभी क्या कर रहे हैं कि the percent bioavailability, जितना drug blood में available है वो हम in vitro, that is outside the body करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, and this can be done by the use of dissolution apparatus. And these are the different types of dissolution apparatus that are available officially. They are closed compartment models. That is, closed compartment means they have limited volume, they have non-sink conditions, and they have beaker type apparatus. I'm sure in the practicals in the third year and the final year, we formulate dosage forms, we formulate different oral solid dosage forms, and I'm sure this dissolution apparatus, हम उसका dissolution करके देखते हैं कि कितना drug release हो रहा है dosage forms से. So these are the different types of dissolution apparatus. It could be USP apparatus type 1, basket type, paddle type, reciprocating cylinder type. So these are the different types of in vitro dissolution testers. Now I will talk about in vitro in vivo correlation. तो यहाँ पे हम exactly क्या कर रहे हैं कि in vitro dissolution behavior is correlated with in vivo bioavailability. तो अगर एक correlation मिल गया इन दोनों का, then from next batch or from next development of that particular drug, हर बार in vivo bioavailability करने की जरूरत नहीं है. So the objectives are batch to batch consistency, and it serves as a tool in the development of new dosage form. And there is something called a statistical moment theory. Okay, so this again in vitro in vivo correlation. Suppose you are correlating plasma level data. तो प्लाज्मा में हमने कौन से 3 important points देखे? Cmax, Tmax and AUC. तो ये Cmax, Tmax and AUC we try to correlate with the dissolution parameters. Similarly, urinary excretion data में we try to correlate the amount of drug unchanged with the dissolution parameter. And acute pharmacological response में the response that we achieve, that is dilution of pupils or constriction of pupils, and we try to analyze it with dissolution parameters. So in vitro में we try to find out the dissolution parameters, and in vivo में we try to correlate with different in vivo parameters. So in statistical moment theory, we try to find out the mean dissolution time, and we try to correlate it with mean residence time. Now, इतना हमने बात किया what is bioavailability. Now it is very important and interesting to know कि what are the factors that affect bioavailability. Like why some drugs have poor bioavailability, why some drugs have more bioavailability, why some liquid formulations of the same drug have more bioavailability than the solid formulations. So the first important factor is physical properties of the drug. Now अगर हमने same drug oral liquid, oral solution के form में दिया और same drug oral solid के form में दिया, what will be the differences in both? Solid drug has to disintegrate. अभी tablet compressed form में है, tablet में से disintegrate होना है, disintegrate होने के बाद दो small particles have to dissolve, and after dissolving it has to get absorbed. Whereas if I am giving it in the oral solution form, इसमें वो disintegration and dissolution का steps तो निकल ही गया, it is already in the dissolved form, so it only has to directly get absorbed. So if the physical properties of drug is very important. Lipid water solubility is important. अगर drug water soluble नहीं रहा, then it will not get solubilized in the GI phase itself. So because of it, there will be less solubility and less dissolution, less permeation. So obviously the bioavailability, the final जो drug पहुंचेगा blood में, will be very less. Then comes particle size. जितना कम particle size, उतना ज़्यादा dissolution will enhance because it has more surface area. So जितना कम particle size, उतना ज़्यादा bioavailability. Ionization. Now we know the concept of unionized and ionized drug. So the unionized drug will be better able to permeate in the GIT. When our gastrointestinal pH is low, unionized drug permeates more. Similarly, pH of the delivery site. If the pH is unfavorable for the drug, like if suppose the drug disintegrate or the drug degrades in an acidic environment. Suppose drug का pH 1.2, pH 2 पे drug degrade हो जाता है, तो drug degrade हो जाएगा, तो it will not enter the GI, right? So again there will be less bioavailability. Similarly, fasted and fed state, presence of other components, any other disease states, first pass metabolism. All these affect the factors. All these are the factors that affect bioavailability. Now the next comes is why poor bioavailability. Abhi, as I mentioned, this chart was what I was constantly mentioning. So all of these concepts revolve around this. So this you have to very firmly picturize in your mind. Oral dosage form, it will undergo disintegration. After disintegration, the individual particles will undergo dissolution, and only after dissolution it can get absorbed in the plasma. So this poor bioavailability can be in this stage, that is it can be poor aqueous solubility. Poor aqueous solubility रहा तो disintegration से dissolution होगा ही नहीं. Poor stability poor है तो dissolve होने के बाद भी degrade हो जाएगा. तो degrade हो गया तो वो absorb नहीं हो, मतलब absorb होके effect नहीं बताएगा. Similarly, poor permeability. अगर ये drug का permeability poor है तो ये absorption में problem होगा. Then we come to methods to enhance bioavailability. Now, what do pharmacists approach the drug to enhance the bioavailability? Now, one method is pharmaceutic approach, that is modification of the formulation, modification of the manufacturing process, and modification of the physicochemical properties of the drug. Second is pharmacokinetic approach, that is modifying the chemical structure. And third is biologic approach, that is modifying the route of drug administration. Now, biologic approach, we've already seen which route has the maximum bioavailability. Pharmacokinetic approach, if you have to modify the chemical structure of API, it is a very expensive process. And once you modify the chemical structure, you have to ensure its stability. So it is difficult for a pharma company to use the pharmacokinetic approach. So most of the pharmaceutics approach is basically dependent on modification of the formulation and the manufacturing process. Modification of formulation, you can always improve the formulation. You can add additional components such that your formulation is enhanced. So we will see this in the coming slides. Now we start about what is the methods to enhance bioavailability. Now these are the different methods that pharmaceutical companies use to enhance the bioavailability. So the first thing is micronization. Now the name itself says micronization, means you reduce the particle size to micron size. And this micron size is anywhere between 1 to 10 microns by using a spray dryer or by using an air attrition technique. Now what is spray drying and what is air attrition? Spray drying means there is a chamber in which you float the air particles, and these air particles are let through a tube at a compressed air. Because of this compression and because of air attrition, so these dry particles collide against each other in that environment, and because it collides against each other, it breaks into smaller size particles and it forms particles of 1 to 10 microns. The classic example, so here all the examples you have to remember per method, and these questions are very frequent. Example, griseofulvin, steroidal and sulfa drugs. The second method is use of surfactants. Now, what are surfactants? So these surfactants are special molecules or special chemicals that enhance the dissolution rate. And how do they enhance the dissolution rate? They promote wetting and penetration of fluids. Now, like suppose if I have a drug powder, and if I put water, like suppose हल्दी में अगर आप पानी डालोगे तो हल्दी को क्या होता है, हल्दी फ्लोट होता है बिकॉज हल्दी इज वेरी हाइड्रोफोबिक. द टर्मरिक that you use in cooking, only if you put in oil it gets mixed, but if you put in water वो float होता है because it is hydrophobic. तो अगर वो हल्दी और पानी में मैंने surfactant डाला तो it will promote wetting, it will help in mixing. So by this property the dissolution rate enhances and the bioavailability enhances. So the example of surfactant is polysorbate, and the example of drug जिसका bioavailability enhance किया है, the example is spironolactone. So this is a typical structure of a surfactant which has an hydrophilic head and which has an hydrophobic tail. And based on the charge on the head, it can be classified as anionic, cationic, or amphoteric kind of surfactant. The third form is use of salt form. I'm sure you must have studied this in your in other subjects. Like if you convert a typical base form into a salt form, it enhances the solubility. So majority of the salt forms show enhanced solubility and dissolution characteristics. Like example, alkali metal salts of acidic drugs like penicillin, strong acidic salts of atropine. These have been shown to enhance more water soluble than the parent drug. Now this is some example of sildenafil glutarate salt, which the solubility is 3.2 folds more than sildenafil. Similarly, bupivacaine chloride salt enhances the solubility by 200-fold as compared to the parent drug bupivacaine. The next is pH microenvironment. So some drugs have specific pH solubility of drugs. Like some drugs will get solubilized in pH 5, some drugs will get solubilized in pH 7. So what you do to change the pH is you add buffers to the formulation. So if you add buffer to the formulation along with your drug, the drug and the buffer both will get solubilized in the GI tract, and because of this buffer, the pH of the microenvironment gets changed, and that pH is favorable to the drug solubility. Like example is buffered aspirin tablets. Now aspirin is known to cause heartburn. It is an NSAID, right? So it is known to cause heartburn because of the extreme acidity it causes. So buffered aspirin tablets they add a buffer which enhances the pH to up to 7. So because it enhances the pH, the heartburn reduces. Now this is one more example wherein this drug causes bleeding because of the extreme acidity, that is extremely low pH. But if you add sodium bicarbonate to it, sodium bicarbonate reduces the pH. It increases the pH, because of which there is less bleeding. Now this is the example of pH microenvironment. Now we come to polymorphism. So in polymorphs, some particular drugs have 2 or 3 different types of polymorphs. One of which is the most stable form, one of them is unstable, and one of them is metastable. Now polymorphs are typically classified based on the arrangement of their molecules inside it, how the atoms are packed into it, and what crystal lattice energy is required to break them. So obviously the most stable form of polymer will require more energy, means will be less soluble, and the unstable and metastable polymorph will be more stable. Like example, form B of chloramphenicol is more water soluble than A and C. So to increase the bioavailability, what you can do is you can try one of these polymorphs which has sufficient stability. So this is the dissolution or dissolving property of metastable polymorph, whereas this is the property of a stable polymorph, and this is of metastable polymorph. The next is solvent deposition. This is a very easy technique. Here what they do is they take an hydrophobic drug, which is water insoluble, and they dissolve it in an organic solvent like alcohol, and they deposit this alcohol organic solvent into adsorbent particles, and these adsorbent particles are hydrophilic carriers like starch or MCC. So here you take the drug, which is water insoluble, and you dissolve it in alcohol. So obviously this becomes a solution. This solution, this MCC or starch is added. And after these are added, the alcohol is evaporated. So when the alcohol is evaporated, what is left behind is the drug is left behind. And this drug gets adsorbed on the MCC or starch that we have added. Now the example for such kind of bioavailability enhancement is nifedipine. Then we come to adsorption. So adsorption is widely different from absorption. So in adsorption, all the particles are stuck to the surface by weak physical bonding and hydration and swelling. So this kind of example is of bentonite, which is a clay. And the example of drugs is griseofulvin, indomethacin, and prednisone. Then the next type is solid solutions, whereas solid solute is dispersed in a solid solvent and it forms molecular dispersions. Because they are molecularly dispersed in another solid, they show greater enhancement in solubility. And an example is griseofulvin succinic acid shows 6 to 7 times more than pure drug. Then comes eutectic mixtures. Eutectic mixtures are fusion methods. They are blended physical mixture of two crystalline components. And when the mixture is exposed to water, the soluble carrier dissolves, leaving the drug in the crystalline state. So here if you see, this is the solid A and solid B as the temperature is low. Like you have just mixed two solids. But at a particular temperature, the solid B melts and it is in melted form and it is in with solid A. Whereas in solid B, as the temperature increases, the A melts and B is there. And this is the eutectic point where there is a physical mixture that is formed. And this physical mixture has highest amount of solubility, because of which the bioavailability enhances. Now, if you compare the solid solution versus eutectic mixtures, solid solutions show higher solubility as compared to eutectic mixtures. Then comes the micronized form of the drug, and then comes the post drug. And maybe we are towards the end of the session today. So I would, this is solid dispersions. Solid dispersions wherein the drug and the carrier are dissolved in a common organic solvent, and this is evaporated to form a drug carrier solid powder. Now again, the main advantage of this is you're using a common organic solvent. So obviously you don't have to heat it like the previous eutectic mixture that we saw. You don't have to heat the substance. So here what happens is thermolabile or the drugs that are sensitive to heat can be used here, because they can be easily dissolved in the organic solvent. So one classic kind of example, question for this kind of
Hello.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, I think you lost the
connection. Yeah, I think there was some technical glitch. So let me just, I'm on my hotspot, so I'll just mute my video. So I'll just shut my video so, we can share the presentation.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm so sorry, this technical glitch is, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And the last kind that we come across is cyclodextrins. So in cyclodextrins, what happens is we have a molecule like this. This is a cyclodextrin molecule. It has a hydrophilic exterior and it has a hydrophobic cavity. So what happens is this particular drug molecule can get lodged in this hydrophobic molecule and it forms a cyclodextrin drug complex. And because this entire cyclodextrin is hydrophilic, it gets solubilized along with the drug. This greatly enhances the aqueous solubility and dissolution rate. So the examples are thiazide diuretics and NSAIDs for this. Now, with this, I end the concept of bioavailability. But after all this, I have a question for you all, and I would like you all to answer this in the chat box. Take time, 2 minutes, read the question carefully, and I would like you all to answer this. So, suppose this is your question. This is the chart that I am showing you all. Here, I want you all to find what is the Cmax and Tmax for both the curves, and which formulation has higher AUC, area under curve. So I would like you to drop your answers in the chat box.